Hello, I am Sensei Kevlar. Welcome back to the dojo. Today we're going to be taking a look at some more indicators and how we can optimize the plan more and make it more scientific. As a quick reminder, what we were last looking at is the break in trend on the ETH-BTC chart right here. How this trend had been respected and then it got broken, and how it's now coming down and touching this line right here. I certainly hope that, by now I've impressed upon you the need to, at the very least on paper, and this is what we should be talking about right now, on paper, creating a plan to be buying right here, and then creating a plan to be buying right here, and looking at the RSI and telling us, seeing what the RSI is telling us. Do we have room to run down? Do we have more to go? That's what we were looking at last time. Now, remember that the RSI is something that, I was able to break down. I hope that you can break it down because you understand it. All of these indicators are just formulas. They're just ways of looking at the data aggregated over time and then plotted. And that's really important that we understand what it is we're talking about. So when we were talking about the RSI, we were talking about how the average was a moving average over time. What it did is it looked back, in order to compute this plot right here, it looked back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bars. And it averaged the close of these bars, okay? For this bar, it looked back 14 bars, which is, one more. For this bar, it looked back 14 bars, which is to here. This bar all the way back to here, this bar to here, this bar to here, right? At each point, we recomputed the RSI given a set of moving averages over the gains and the loss divided by the loss in order to compute the ratio of gains to loss, okay? Now, if we were to do that calculation a little bit differently, bear with me, if we were to assume that time in reverse, as we were computing each of these in our average, we assumed that each of these had less weight. Each of these was less important. We applied some modifier in order to diminish their value by some amount and diminish how much they were contributing to the overall. What we would do is we would be applying some weights to these. We would call this a weighted moving average. And the idea is that as the sequence gets older, it becomes less relevant in our sequence, okay? By applying a weighted moving average, what we would do is we would create a indicator which is more relevant in the future. It considers the future more relevant in its calculation. What we could then do is we could then plot sort of an RSI using a weighted moving average, okay? And what we could do is we could look at different time frames, right? We could say that we could have one weighted moving average, which was looking back 14 time frames, and one weighted moving average, which is looking back 28 time frames, okay? And what we would do is we would compare those two indicators together. So there's an indicator that does this. It's called the moving average, just like I said a second ago. Convergence divergence, MACD. So I'm going to pull up the moving average convergence divergence because that's what we want to study. We want to study the convergence or divergence, convergence being where the two lines come together, or divergence where the two lines separate, okay, of the weighted moving average. In this case, what we're doing is we're taking a 12 and a 26. So we consider one the fast because this is only looking 12 back, and it reacts quickly to changes in the direction. And then we're also going to take a slow, a 26, because this considers more, and it's more lagged by longer periods, right? It has more time in its consideration, so it takes longer to move when the move actually occurs. So, what we want to do is we want to study when these two things come together and when these two things go apart, right here, okay? And that's what this is right here. That's what this red and green chart is right here. What we're plotting is we're plotting how much they moved apart. If it's red, they're moving apart. If it's green, they're moving... if it's red and it's moving down, then they're moving apart. And they are... and they're moving down, right? They're moving apart because this is increasing, and they're moving down because this is going down. If this is moving up, then they are moving together. And you see that the point at which they cross, right here, is the point at which this chart goes in the opposite direction. What we see is that this blue is our fast, and it responds to change quickly. And the orange is slow, and it responds to change not so quickly. And when the one crosses the other, we see a change in direction. Okay? Now let's see how this is correlated in our chart, right? When the RSI is below 20 and the MACD crosses, is that a signal? Well, turns out that bumped us up right there a fair bit, right? That was signaling our opportunity. We certainly got a MACD crossing back here and a MACD crossing back here and here. Okay? So these are usually heavily correlated signals. If you go back in time and you look at here, the MACD crossing right here, well, where was the RSI? The RSI was touching 23. What about here and here, right? Where was the RSI? The MACD crossing signaled the change in direction. Now, it's going to do this with some periodicity. It's going to do this with some statistical relevance. It's not always. It's never always. Okay? But what you want to do is you want to measure the cases where it is. You want to measure the conditions where it is. And you want to measure the statistical relevance of where it is. And then what happens next in the market. What happens next in the market. What happens next in the market. Okay? If every time the RSI, every time the MACD goes and crosses down here, we just did some buying, right? There's another time right there where right here, I got to move that over a little, right? Okay? If every time we did that, right here, here's another time, statistically, would have made some good money. Here's the point. The point is that, statistically speaking, this can improve our chances. What we want to do is we want to build a strategy that is statistically favorable in our odds, right? And what we want to do is we want to look and we want to say, look, the MACD, well, it's really averaged out. This motion downward has really petered out, and we've really seen some sideways action. We could be due for another dump. That could be what's coming up next. That's absolutely what this indicator is telling us. It's signaling that this is not a good buy time. In fact, you're seeing divergence. You're seeing a case of the MACD saying, no, usually when it's a good time to buy, what's happening is we're down here and the MACD is crossing. The MACD diverging in a downward direction, that can't possibly be a good time to buy. Okay? So this is optimizing our plan. This is telling us that we don't have the required indicators that we're looking for. What we want to do is we want to count the number of indicators and make it statistically relevant. If we say this is statistically relevant to, 87% or something, because 87% of the time, and, here's a case where it just didn't happen, here's a case where it didn't happen, and here's a case where it didn't happen, where the market just sunk away after the MACD crossed, right? These are anti-correlations. Definitely. Here's a positive correlation. Here's another positive correlation. Here's another positive correlation, right? Here's another positive correlation. Here's another positive correlation. I think we have our indicator that statistically tells us we need to be lower in the MACD for this to be significantly relevant. If that's the case, then we would assign a much, 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 much lower buying opportunity to this, if one at all, or simply wait this out. Simply wait it out. Go find another opportunity to do this in. Now we're actually getting somewhere, right? Now we're building the plan. The plan is, number one, it needs to be at support and resistance. Number two, RSI needs to be at least below 30, preferably below 20. Number three, the MACD should be down around, down here, 0.005, down around this area at least, and it should have recently crossed in the upward direction. It should not be diverging. If we plan this trade, this isn't a buy. And we stay scientific about this, we stay rigorous about this, we don't buy. What do we do instead? We put our buy order down here. And we wait for the market to come into it. This automation and other automation like it will save your butt. It'll make your plan better, even though your plan would have worked. If your plan doesn't work, if you have to buy here and here and here and here and here, well, then you're not doing it right. Right? But this would have made your plan better, statistically speaking. And if we have a plan that always works, but we want to improve upon it, then what we want to do is we want to improve upon the odds. We want to improve upon the statistics. And we can do that very scientifically. We can do that by measuring. We can do that by keeping good records, good bookkeeping in terms of, what the actual correlations are, being honest about that, going in there and studying. And we can make it completely without human judgment. Here's how. You see, each and every one of these scripts, or one of these indicators, is driven by an actual formula. And what they do is they give you access to the formulas. Okay? You want to see the source code for the MACD? Well, it has a source code, and you can come in here and you can modify the source code. Okay? And this is surprisingly easy. It's just like I was saying, right? The fast is 12, and we're just going to look 12 behind, and the slow is 26, and we're just going to look 26 behind. What we're doing is we're saying we're going to take some input, 12 behind us, and then that's going to be equal to a variable called the fast length. We're going to take some input, and that's equal to 26 behind us, and that's going to be equal to the slow length. Then we're going to take the close and the signal length, which has, you know, a min val, a max val, and a default val. And then finally some booleans, which you can set right here. All of these are changeable, right? That's why they're inputs. Sorry, wrong button. All these are changeable right here. The 12, the 26, you can change it to anything. Doesn't have to be the close. There's the default value of 9 right there. And then the 2 booleans. Okay. So if I modify this right here, then this becomes true. SMA source, right? The single MA oscillator. If I click that button, that becomes true. Now, that becomes false. So in the rest of my code here, when I go to check this, this will either be true or false in this indicator based upon whether or not this is set. That's why they're called inputs. Okay. These are just colors. If you know your hexadecimal colors, these are probably web colors, right? These are the actual calculations. What we're going to do is we're going to take either the simple moving average or the exponentially weighted moving average of the fast length, depending upon if we have, if we've clicked the button, right? If we click one button, we're going to take the simple moving average. If we click the, click the other button, you know, if we put a true value, if we put a false value, then it's going to be one thing. If we put a true value, it's going to be another thing. Simple moving, exponentially weighted moving. Then we're going to say the MACD, which is this red and green thing in the middle here, is equal to the fast MA minus the slow MA. And the signal is, and then we're going to compute the signal from the MACD. And then get our histogram, which is our MACD minus our signal, and then plot everything. And that's it. Now, if I wanted to modify, you know, same thing here. Same thing with the RSI. Right? In fact, we can compute the RSI Pine script. Let's make a new one. Let's copy some, you know, make a new one by copy somebody else's, right? Yeah, his looks like it works. Let's take a look at what it's doing here. Okay. He's got something even better going on, and this is what I want to show you. Did I not copy it? Come on, copy. And then paste. No? Oh, okay. I can't modify this. No wonder. Okay, what I can do is I can go new, blank strategy script. Then I can paste that in. Okay. Then I can add this to my chart. Yeah, that's not the right one. Hold on just one second. Let me find a better one. RSI, Pine script. That's the one that when I tried, it doesn't work. That looks reasonable. Okay. And we'll add that to the chart. Much better. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. Here is our homegrown RSI. And boy, howdy, does it look like the RSI that came with TradingView. Get rid of this. Okay. So what are we doing here? we are taking the... What is RMA? RMA is the moving average used in RSI. It is exponentially weighted moving average with alpha of 1 over length. Okay. And then max is the greater of two values, so either the change or 0 of SRC, and SRC is close. And change gives us the difference between the current and previous x and x minus y. X minus y, x of y. Got it. So this gives us the difference in values, right? This gives us how much we went in one direction, and this gives us how much we went in the other direction. So what we're computing is we're computing our average of our gain and our loss. And then here is our RSI calculation right here. 100 minus 100 divided by 1 plus the up minus the down. And here we computed the up minus the down. And then we just plot the RSI. Okay. And the rest of this is all stuff to make it pretty. And then these are additional inputs that we can do. The 3 and the 4, the 14 right here, the length of it. And there's your RSI right there, right? So then this is probably some additional indicator that we're seeing here. We can get rid of that. What happens when we do that? There we go. Yeah, we get rid of the weird oscillator that's happening there. Okay. So there's your RSI. Now, what you can do is, having done that, we now have the code that we need in order to automate figuring out the actual correlation here. So let's do that, okay? In order to do that, I'm just going to skip ahead and do what we want to call a RSI strategy. And what a strategy is the difference between an indicator and a strategy is that let me close this. The difference between an indicator and a strategy is you can say in a strategy, is not the one I want right here. There we go. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to wrap all of that RSI up into just their built-in RSI. We're going to compute our RSI. And then when the RSI crosses over, we're going to say, hey, go ahead and buy. So we're going to say when the RSI crosses under 30, go ahead and buy. And when it crosses over 70, go ahead and sell. Okay? And what we can do is we can now automate the correlation and see if 30, made us money, right? Because here it went under 30 and here it went over 70. Let's make sure of that. Let's take a look at the actual, bring back the RSI. I'm sorry, not that one. Now I've got two of them. Okay. So here we went length of 14, and this has a length of 14 close. Yeah. So here we did a cross under of 30. It barely occurred on this indicator, but here we definitely, right here, excuse me. Right here at this moment in time, the RSI crossed under 30. You see that cross right there? And it bought for the first time. Okay. Here, the RSI went above 70, and so we sold. So we can actually see and test this. Would this have made us money if we had bought here and sold here? Right? So obviously it wouldn't have, because this is, pretty much revenue neutral. But can we modify our strategy to be about 20 and 80 instead? We can do that here, in fact. Sorry, right here. 20 and 80. Okay, and look at how things change. 20 might have been too low in order to get us into this opportunity, so let's change that to 25. And now what we're doing is we're back testing our strategy. This is about finding those optimizations, okay? So RSI below 25 definitely did it here for us. Here was our initial signal to get in. Here we could have doubled up, tripled up, quadrupled up, made our money. Here we could have definitely got in again because it didn't signal to get out yet, so it wouldn't have known that this was another crossing. Set that to 25. Sorry. Style 25. Okay, there's our crossing again right there to signal us getting in again. And again, we can measure when the RSI told us how effectively to get out, because here it crossed above. What do we have this set at? 80. Let's change that here. And it told us to get out. So we could have made a lot of money if we had simply followed this indicator. Okay, if it had told us right here that this was the first time that the indicator, signal, hey, look at this, it's time to get in. Well, look at what happened. RSI is telling us again it's time to get out. Well, we've just automated finding correlations, and we've made it completely scientific. We've made it unopinionated. We can tell us just how much money this would have made us. Okay. And let's go to here is our net profit right here. Right? So this is how to use automation to improve your strategy. Automation will improve your intelligence. Automation will improve your information. And if you look at all of the opportunities available to you, there's a bazillion. There is a bazillion strategies out here that are highly effective in these markets if you test them. There are a billion strategies out here that will keep you reliably over a statistical playout, over a statistical probability, optimizing your strategy. So this is something you pretty much have to do all the time. You have to constantly come in here and find, let's see here, let's find the fix viz finds, there we go, the VIX fix, there we go. The CM Williams VIX fix finds market bottoms is one of the favorites. And what this is this is a indicator that looks at momentum and uses a situation where the volume is drastically increasing and the momentum is drastically increasing in order to find the market bottoms. Okay, so let's take a look at historically how well it does here. Historically, I'm sorry, let me get that RSI under control there. Let me get some more screen real estate for us all. Historically, what it's done is it said, well, here we've had times when the market has, come down, and then there was this spike. A spike in activity, okay? And what this did is this signaled the market bottom. And what happened is after this spike in activity, the market went up again. And here we see, spikes in activity where the market goes up, and here the market goes down on us. You better have a plan in place for when the market goes down on you like this. And here it definitely signaled the bottom again. And if you look at what happens, is there's trends within this. Oh, way to draw that indicator. Nice job. Okay, so that's not working. Anyway, the point is that you can imagine that there's a invisible line that extends across these peaks right here. Okay? This is different than the invisible line that extends across these peaks right here. This is clearly a downward motion. This is signaling a time in the market. And look at what it's telling us. It's telling us we haven't seen the bottom yet. It's telling us that momentum is steadily decreasing in one direction. And then finally we get a green indicator. Okay? Well, what else happened here? Why did we get a change in what is this spike here? Well, I can tell you what this spike is. It's other botters and other traders looking at this RSI going below 25. Of course that's what it is. And here it is again. And here it is again. And here it is again. And then what happened? Well, the market went up. So if you had waited this out because this thing was telling you no, 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 you waited all of this out, and then the RSI hit, and then your bottom indicator hit, and your MACD indicator hit, and you found yourself at a resistance at a support level, well, this would have been a great buy. This would have been a fantastic buy. I don't care that it went down, because you should have had a plan in place for it going down and buying more right here, at this level, when the RSI also signaled below 25. And I don't care that it went down from there down to here, because you should have had a plan in place for when that signaled below 25 and your Williams indicator went green and your RSI crossed. I'm sorry, your MACD crossed. Let's get the MACD back in here, right? And your MACD crossed. I'm sorry, but you should have had a plan in place for buying. Here was your MACD turn right there, followed by a crossing. What would have happened if you had bought here, bought here, bought here? What would have happened next? Okay. So what would have happened if you had bought here, RSI, MACD crossing, Williams indicator, at the support level? What would have happened next? Would you have made money? Well, what would have happened if you had bought here? Would you have need to have bought here? Do you need to have a plan in place for down here and down here and down here? Right here? This line right here? Whatever this is that I haven't drawn yet? Better believe you do. A plan that's going to make you money. This is scientific. There's no way about actually going through and finding the correlations to the degree that makes you money historically. Because if it made you money historically and then the market does that again, which it could do, which it's got to do. I mean, what's it going to do? It's going to do one. I'll tell you what it's going to do. I will predict right here and right now what it's going to do. It's going to do one of three things. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. Or it's going to go sideways. That's what it's going to do. I promise you. It's going to do one of those three things. And then after it does one of those three things, it's going to do one of three things, and you can guess what they are. So either you create those opportunities, or you're not making money in this market. So what you can do is you can come in here and make this your strategy. Improve upon it, because this is, simply selling when the RSI crosses. Well, can we tell it to sell when the RSI crosses and when the MACD, or when the RSI crosses and the MACD crosses and the Williams indicator goes? Well, yeah, we can. We can come in here, then we can come over here and see how well we did over time. We can come in here and see, even as we sit here and change the numbers, what a better strategy would have been. Okay? And then what's more is, having figured all of that out, having done all of that work to look into the past, we can now, and having back-tested that strategy for over and over again, we can now forward test that strategy by simply doing nothing and waiting and seeing if we were correct, if now was the wrong time to buy, or if the green Williams indicator was telling us that it was an opportunity that we should be getting in with one small position with a big plan in place for this drop right here. Because the Williams indicator was telling us, and we were crossing, we were very close on the RSI, even if the MACD is telling us no. Could we take a gamble on one position here with the plan in place? Of course we can. Can we make money on an upturning market? Can we make money on a downturning market? Can we make money on a sideways market? Well, only if we buy. Can we test that out and make damn sure that we are going to make money now and in the future without spending any money at all? You can if you plan the trade and trade the plan. And that is the way of the trader. I want to thank you all for joining me. I'm really looking forward to Monday, where we start to take automation to a whole new level. In the meantime, what I want you to do is I still want you to continue making charts. Making charts with studies on them that show you being profitable. Look at you being profitable right here. Look at this profit. Okay? Here was a buy. Do we need to have a plan in place for what happened next? Yes. Here's a perfect lesson, perfect teaching moment right here. Okay. Does it look like this? Yeah, it does. Could we still see a drop down to here? Yes, we could. Plan on it. I look forward to Monday, and you all have a great weekend. And I will see you at 4:30 for the discussion if you're around. Thank you very much.